take a big risk when you try to make a movie.
Put themselves in dangerous situations, especially in undercover. You know who you're dealing with half the time.
The opportunity to succeed, and he poured a lot of work into it and a lot of effort. It was a really tough movie to get made.
Training Day throws fans into one brutal, unpredictable ride alongside a rookie and a monster in a Monte Carlo, but the chaos behind the camera was somehow even stranger. For decades, the film's intensity has haunted audiences, and finally, the facts are out. From a real-life LAPD scandal to an improvised Oscar speech that almost got cut, how did these facts stay hidden for so long? And did you know the movie was nearly ruined before it was even shot? Join us as we spill 21 wild facts about Training Day that will make your jaw drop. Number 21. The word-for-word truth. You've heard the rumors. Now here's the truth. David Ayer's original script had Alonzo raging in the final confrontation with lines that were solid professional writing. Then Denzel Washington stepped in front of the camera and incinerated the page. Instead, he delivered the King Kong "Ain't Got Shit on Me" monologue that became a hit in the entertainment world. The line has since been quoted by Shaquille O'Neal, sampled by rappers, and embedded into pop culture's DNA. And none of it existed before Denzel opened his mouth. That line was never in the script Denzel was given, but what most people don't know is that a large percentage of Denzel's entire performance across the whole film was unscripted. From Alonzo's casual menace to his whispered threats, much of what made the character unforgettable came directly from Denzel's instincts, not David's pen. So if the most famous line in the film didn't even exist on paper, what other technical flaw almost erased that legendary moment from movie history? Number 20. The out-of-focus disaster. Here's a detail that will make every aspiring filmmaker break into a cold sweat. That single most iconic moment in the entire film that launched 1,000 memes was technically defective. Director Antoine Fuqua revealed that the legendary King Kong take was slightly out of focus. Not just a little soft, genuinely, technically problematic. Antoine watched the footage back and seriously considered cutting the scene entirely. Then the editor intervened. He argued that the performance was so overwhelmingly powerful that no audience member in history would ever notice or care about a minor focus issue. He was right, so the scene stayed, and the rest became cinema history. But Antoine's anxiety didn't end there. He also admitted that when Denzel launched into the unscripted tirade, he turned to his cameraman mid-take and whispered, "I hope you're rolling, because I don't think we're going to get that again." That single take, flawed, imperfect, unrepeatable, is now studied in film schools as a masterclass in letting the actor run wild. That out-of-focus miracle went on to win Denzel an Oscar. But do you know just how long Hollywood had waited to give a black actor that very award? Number 19. The Oscar that took 4 decades to arrive. When the Academy announced Denzel Washington's name for Best Actor at the 74th Oscars in 2002, Denzel became only the second African-American man to ever win the Oscar for Best Actor, following Sidney Poitier's victory in 1964 for Lilies of the Field.
Cast in thy lot amongst us, let us all have one purse. Look, I am a poor man. I've got to work for wages. Now, I can't work for...
That's a gap of 38 years, 3.5 decades where Hollywood gave the industry's highest acting honor to exactly one black man. The moment carried extra weight because earlier that same night, the Academy presented Sidney Poitier with an honorary Lifetime Achievement Award. The two men stood on that stage together, two icons separated by nearly 40 years, finally sharing the same spotlight. Denzel, ever the gentleman, used his speech to thank his mother, his mentors, and his fellow nominees. But everyone in that room understood what had just happened. History had finally moved forward. To this day, Denzel remains one of only 4 black men to have won the Best Actor Oscar, a list that includes Poitier, Jamie Foxx, and Will Smith. History was made on that stage, but behind the scenes, one man refused to let the movie end the way the studio wanted. What did Denzel fight to change? Number 18. The original ending. Here is a cursed piece of Training Day lore that would have ruined everything. Most fans don't know this, but the original script almost had Jake simply walking away with the money at the end. Alonzo Harris would live, free to corrupt another rookie another day. It was quiet, anticlimactic, and worst of all, sequel bait. Denzel Washington read it and refused. Denzel argued that a man like Alonzo, who had betrayed his community, his badge, and his own soul, deserved to end his life like a snake, crawling in the dirt in front of the very people he terrorized. In the end, the right call was made. Alonzo's death wasn't just shocking, it was the only satisfying conclusion to a day that never should have started. Denzel had strong opinions about Alonzo's fate, but his commitment to authenticity ran even deeper than the script, all the way to a real-life corrupt cop's face and license plate. Who was that officer? Number 17. The Scapegoat Cop. Denzel Washington did not invent Alonzo Harris from pure imagination. He meticulously modeled the character after Rafael Perez, a real LAPD narcotics officer at the epicenter of the Rampart scandal. Perez was no small-time offender. He was caught stealing $800,000 worth of cocaine directly from evidence lockers and later fabricated evidence, ultimately implicating dozens of fellow officers in an attempt to reduce his sentence. Denzel committed to the tribute both visibly and subtly. He famously grew a goatee specifically to resemble Perez, but the filmmakers went even deeper. Alonzo's license plate in the film bears the code ORP-9-6-7, a direct reference to Officer Rafael Perez, born in 1967. This hidden Easter egg was to show how the character Alonzo was just a representation of real men who have shattered public trust in the LAPD due to their actions. But on the very morning the movie's soundtrack dropped, the world flipped upside down. What happened on that fateful day? Number 16. The Sound of America's Darkest Day. On September 11, 2001, the world watched as the Twin Towers collapsed in real time. Planes were grounded, and Americans were frozen in disbelief.
Apparently, a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
But somewhere, in the chaos of that impossible morning, Training Day, the soundtrack officially hit store shelves. Yes, Priority Records released the album, a hard-hitting collection of hip-hop featuring Nelly, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Pharoah Monch, on the very same morning that terrorists turned American airliners into weapons of mass destruction. The timing was either the worst luck in music industry history or some kind of dark cosmic joke. The film itself, originally scheduled for September 21, got pushed back to October 5, but the album was already out in the world. Warner Brothers also had to shuffle their entire release calendar. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Collateral Damage, a film about a terrorist bombing, was deemed too sensitive to release and got shelved until 2002. But Training Day? It rose from the ashes. When it finally hit theaters, it opened at number 1, pulling in over $105 million worldwide. The album survived that dark timing, but one hidden phone call in the film is even darker. Did you catch the line that secretly signed Jake's death warrant? Number 15. The one phone call that changes everything. Here's a line you definitely missed on your first watch. After Alonzo executes his old partner Roger in his living room, he sits alone in his Monte Carlo and makes a quick phone call. Make sure that bathtub is clean, homie. It behooves you not to dick around on this one. It sounds like casual gangster chatter. Maybe he's planning a real estate flip? Wrong. Much later in the film, Jake ends up stripped down, dragged into a bathroom, and nearly drowned in a bathtub at Smiley's house, seconds away from execution while Alonzo enjoys a steak dinner. The connection lands like a punch to the gut. Alonzo was never training Jake. From that phone call forward, he was signing his death warrant, instructing Smiley to prepare the scene for his rookie partner's murder. This is the kind of screenplay detail that makes Training Day endlessly rewatchable. David Ayer planted a bomb in the dialogue and waited 90 minutes to detonate it. Most viewers never connect the two scenes until their second or third viewing, but once you hear that line, you'll never hear it the same way again. That call proves Alonzo was planning murder from early on. But did you know that Ethan Hawke's genuine fear in the movie wasn't entirely acting, because he was almost killed for real? Number 14. The Deadly Ride-Along. Ethan Hawke's preparation for the film went beyond simple research. It placed him in actual danger. When he rode with real LAPD narcotics officers, those ride-alongs were not simulated. He entered volatile crime scenes and housing projects where tensions ran high and weapons were common. Beyond the police, Ethan and Denzel met with actual gang members and local drug dealers off camera to authentically understand the dynamics of the world they were portraying. Clay Shahid Bone Sloan, a former gang member, served as a gang advisor on set, ensuring the dialogue and gestures felt genuine. The production also negotiated directly with gang leaders to shoot in the Imperial Court's housing projects in Watts, a landmark achievement for a major film at the time. Ethan later admitted that he never felt entirely safe, especially when Alonzo's crew turned on him in the script, because there were real people in the background who lived that life every single day. Ethan survived those dangerous ride-alongs, yet the film's director insists the story isn't about good guys and bad guys at all. What gray area did Antoine want you to see? Number 13. The gray area nobody noticed. Director Antoine Fuqua has always maintained that Training Day is not a simple story of a good cop versus a bad cop. If you pay close attention, Antoine plants clues that the line between criminal and lawman has dissolved entirely. He deliberately saturates the visual frame with ambiguity, suggesting that Alonzo Harris was once a brilliant officer who simply learned the system too well. Antoine also insisted that Jake Hoyt is not purely innocent. Though honorable, Jake's ambition leads him to smoke PCP, steal drug money, and willingly participate in a home invasion. He is complicit long before he finds a moral compass. The director wanted the audience to ask whether a system that produces an Alonzo is ultimately responsible for his crimes. The movie refuses to let anyone off the hook. It forces us to ask a truly uncomfortable question. If you were thrown into Jake's impossible situation on that very first day, which side would you tend to? That moral ambiguity is what makes the film rewatchable. But offset, Denzel had a strange way of keeping Ethan Hawke on edge, something you'd never expect from a co-star. What did he do? Number 12. Denzel pressured Ethan to be terrible. When shooting Training Day, Denzel Washington actively manipulated his co-star Ethan Hawke to keep him off balance. Ethan has mentioned that Denzel's charisma was so overwhelming that he worried he would be blown off the screen. The solution? Denzel tended to dominate their scenes together, often improvising lines aggressively. Ethan, realizing he had to fight to be seen, adopted an unusual strategy to hold his own against the powerhouse. He later admitted that Denzel told him that part of his job in the film was to make Ethan feel like a deer in the headlights. It worked. Ethan's genuine nervous energy in the poker scene, where he faces down gang members, is palpable precisely because he wasn't sure if Denzel was looking out for him or throwing him to the wolves. Those mind games worked, but the film's most important scene almost didn't make the cut because studio executives thought it was boring. Which restaurant meeting saved the movie's soul? Number 11. The restaurant scene that saved the movie's soul. Warner Brothers studio executives once looked at a pivotal restaurant scene where Alonzo meets three higher-ups known as the Three Wise Men and wanted it gone. They argued it killed the pace, but director Antoine Fuqua fought hard to keep it, a battle he eventually won because he understood the scene was the moral backbone of the film. Without it, Alonzo would have remained simply a rogue bad apple, a singular monster. With it, he became something far more disturbing, a symptom of a broken system. The meeting reveals that Alonzo's corruption is sanctioned, managed, and encouraged by superiors who are just as compromised as he is. That scene survived the studio's axe. But another tense sequence, the poker game, was rigged in a way that made Ethan Hawke's discomfort 100% real. How did Antoine pull that off? Number 10. The poker game. Jake was never supposed to win. One of the most tense sequences in the film is the card game where Jake is forced to play with gang members while waiting for Alonzo. The visible, bone-deep discomfort on Ethan Hawke's face is not purely good acting. It is a genuine reaction. Director Antoine Fuqua deliberately kept Ethan in the dark. Before filming, Antoine secretly instructed the actors playing the gang members to improvise aggressively and behave unpredictably, specifically without telling Ethan what was coming. The goal was to manufacture real tension and confusion, to make Ethan's anxiety spontaneous and raw. The strategy worked perfectly, turning a simple plot beat into one of the film's most uncomfortably memorable scenes. But Antoine's trick worked because Ethan had already done something that blurred the line between actor and real cop. What did he do to become Jake Hoyt? Number 9. The rookie who became the real thing. Ethan Hawke's terrified, wide-eyed energy as Jake Hoyt was not entirely an act. It was the result of a deliberate strategy to immerse him in authentic danger. To prepare, Ethan rode along on patrol with real LAPD narcotics officers, a harrowing preview of the moral chaos his character would confront. It was a deep dive, as Denzel and Ethan also met off-camera with undercover police, local drug dealers, and gang members to decode the brutal dynamics of the world they were about to portray. The production even brought two actual police officers, Michael Patterson and Paul Lozada, onto the set as full-time technical advisors throughout the shoot. That's why the film always felt so real. Ethan went that deep into research, but the film also put real music legends on screen, not as gimmicks, but as essential parts of the story. Who showed up to play gangsters and dirty cops? Number 8. From charts to crime drama. When audiences first watched Training Day, many were shocked to see Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Macy Gray pop up in dramatic roles. And they weren't just gimmicks. Snoop delivered a surprisingly powerful performance as Blue, a wheelchair-bound drug dealer who commands every scene he's in, while Macy Gray gave a brief but raw turn as a drug dealer's wife. Dr. Dre played Paul, one of Alonzo's corrupt protégés on the narcotics squad, grounding the film's portrayal of systemic rot with his genuine West Coast credibility. Adding music icons who actually lived that LA culture felt like truth. Snoop, Dre, and Macy Gray brought street credibility. But the diner where Jake first met Alonzo had its own Hollywood career. What was that landmark's secret life? Number 7. The iconic diner. The diner where Jake first meets Alonzo, all black and white tile floors, vinyl booths, and flickering neon, is a real Los Angeles landmark called the Quality Cafe. It also appeared in David Fincher's Seven, where Morgan Freeman's character meets Gwyneth Paltrow, and in Gone in 60 Seconds.
I don't know.
Why don't you tell me what's really bothering you, Tracy?
David and I are gonna have a baby.
If you watch both scenes side by side, you'll notice nearly identical camera angles, including a shot of the cook cracking eggs. The Quality Cafe closed as a diner in 2006 and was demolished in 2014. That diner appeared in other classics, but long before any of that, two completely different actors were almost Alonzo and Jake, who nearly starred before Denzel and Ethan. Number 6. The original stars. Before Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke ever stepped onto the set, the original plan was for Samuel L. Jackson to play Alonzo Harris and Matt Damon to play Jake Hoyt. Director Davis Guggenheim was attached to helm the project as an indie film, but everything changed when Denzel came aboard. Denzel was so committed to his vision that he personally requested Guggenheim be replaced with Antoine Fuqua, a director he believed could bring the raw, unflinching energy the story demanded. It was a bold power move that shaped the entire direction of the film. That casting change was dramatic, but another music superstar was actually offered the role of Jake before Ethan Hawke, who turned it down. Number 5. Eminem almost played Jake. Yes, Slim Shady himself could have been Denzel Washington's wide-eyed rookie partner. Eminem was offered the role of Jake Hoyt, but turned it down because he was already preparing for his own acting debut in 8 Mile, which released a year later in 2002. He wasn't the only name in the ring. Tobey Maguire, Paul Walker, Freddie Prinze Jr., Ryan Phillip, and Scott Speedman all auditioned for the role before Ethan Hawke ultimately locked it down. It's fascinating to imagine how different Training Day would have felt with a rapper in the co-lead. Speaking of Tobey Maguire, he didn't just audition casually. How far did he go to try and land the role of Jake? Number 4. Tobey Maguire's deep commitment. Tobey Maguire didn't just read lines and leave. He spent 2 full months riding along with undercover narcotics officers in Los Angeles and even gained weight to look the part. He was genuinely close to being cast. But when Ethan Hawke's schedule finally opened up, director Antoine Fuqua went with his original first choice. Tobey was dropped.
Having gone through some traumatic experiences and I'm a changed man, it gets pretty dramatic.
It must have stung after that level of commitment, but fate had other plans. Just 1 year later, he'd put on a very different kind of suit as Peter Parker in Spider-Man. Casting was one challenge, but filming in real gang territory was another level of danger entirely. Where did the crew shoot that no major production had ever gone before? Number 3. Filming in gang territory. Antoine Fuqua didn't want Training Day to look like a Hollywood set. He wanted it to feel dangerous, because it was dangerous. Much of the film was shot on location in some of the most notorious neighborhoods in Los Angeles, including areas where film crews had never been allowed before. Antoine secured permission from local gang leaders to shoot inside the Imperial Court's housing projects in Watts, a first for any major production. Real gang members were cast as extras and appeared in the background of key scenes, including the climactic standoff. When Denzel Washington showed up in those neighborhoods, crowds actually gathered to cheer for him. The line between movie and reality blurred every single day of that shoot. The danger wasn't just in the locations. Even Alonzo's car told a story. What did that beat-up Monte Carlo symbolize? Number 2. Alonzo's car was a character. Alonzo's 1979 Monte Carlo wasn't just a prop, it was a deliberate storytelling choice. The production team selected that specific vehicle because it showed Alonzo's deep connection to the streets and his old-school mentality. Its battered, worn-down appearance mirrored his own moral decay. Over the course of the film, the car takes more and more damage, scratches, bullet holes, and a shattered windshield, paralleling Alonzo's unraveling grip on power. By the time the credits roll, both Alonzo and his car are beyond saving. That car had its own legacy. But did you know that the screenwriter tried to bring his own legacy to life through the movie? Number 1. Born from a real scandal. Screenwriter David Ayer didn't pull this story from thin air. He wrote the script back in 1995, drawing directly from the growing rumors of corruption inside the LAPD's anti-gang task force. When the infamous Rampart scandal exploded publicly in the late 1990s, officers planting evidence, stealing drugs, even shooting unarmed suspects, it validated everything Ayer had put on the page. Ayer himself grew up in the neighborhoods depicted in the film, using his personal knowledge to shape the gritty authenticity of the screenplay. The fact that reality caught up with fiction gave the project the exact momentum it needed to finally get made. Which of these 21 facts completely blindsided you? And what other Training Day mystery do you wish we had uncovered? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.